There are a number of items that we're covering for you in the Tennessee General Assembly, not the least of which is a bill that we brought up last week, and I've not talked a lot about it this week, but I do want to get back into it. We had planned to have Congressman, or rather I should say Senator Ken Yeager on about this. It is involving vaping in the state of Tennessee. There's a piece of legislation, I think there's a Senate number on this too, but there's a piece of legislation that is House Bill... Oh, where was it? Well, I don't even know that the number matters that much. 968, House Bill 968, that has now stalled in House committee, in my opinion, thankfully. Sponsors of the bill have framed it as a measure to try to crack down on youth vaping in our state and the use of, quote, illicit Chinese vapes that are wreaking havoc, their words, on Tennessee youth. I thought it may be a good idea to understand how this would impact a lot of legitimate businesses in the state of Tennessee, as there are not just hundreds but thousands of vape stores providing these items to grown-ups who want to indulge in vaping or want to try to stop smoking cigarettes, which have demonstrated far more harm to the general public than said vaping. With this in mind, I reached out to a gentleman. Actually, he emailed me a few days ago. His name is Fred Richmond, and he's over in Knoxville, and he agreed to come on just to give his perspective on this legislation and what ought to and ought not to be done with regard to vaping in the state. Fred, we welcome you to the show. Thanks for being willing to come on with us. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Matt. It's good to talk to you. Hopefully we can clear the air on some of these things that are floating through the House right now.
Well, I hope so too. Obviously, the biggest piece of this that is of concern to me is the taxation piece, and I imagine that that's of concern to you. But I don't want to draw you in any particular direction. Talk to me about your perception of the bill, Fred, and what your top line concerns are.
Well, initially when Senate Bill 763 and House Bill 968 were introduced, these bills were set to pretty much wipe the market of everything that was not already authorized by the FDA to be sold, that has not already had what they call a pre-market tobacco approval. So these bills only wanted those products on the market. Now, from my understanding from the legislator in Nashville, that the intent of these bills was to get some of these Chinese vapes off the market. And there are some Chinese vapes. Majority of the stuff that is sold in your legitimate, people who care about tobacco harm reduction vape shops are going to be what they call open systems. Now, disposable, those are closed systems. Mm-hmm. Now, I have to note that all of the FDA-approved products are closed systems. So what we've got is we've got a system where it's got a pod, you change it out, or you buy a whole nother device, and you vape it and you throw it away. There's a couple things wrong with that scenario is those disposables, not only are you throwing away, a lot of trash, some of those that you throw the whole thing away, you're throwing a lithium-ion battery in the garbage. That's not good for our environment. I am a proponent of the open systems, the ones that are refillable, that use a battery that can be recharged multiple times. You can take the battery out, properly recycle it, replace it with a new one. Those are the kinds of things that I'm looking at. And the problem with these two bills, now the Senate Bill 763, that already passed the House. They voted on that, and they voted in favor of that. Now, the House bill, that has been stalled in finance, and finance has started to take note of some things that myself, many of my other constituents, and other vape shop owners have pointed out to them as, hey, look, there are adults out there who use these products to stay off of tobacco. Mm-hmm. And when you get into a situation where you're looking at harm reduction, the federal government, the FDA, and many states have not been receptive to harm reduction. I personally was a smoker for over 20 years. I used vaping to get off of smoking. It's kind of why I opened my shop. I kind of have a passion. You know, people were asking me when I was first using it. I've been doing it for 16 years. People, when I first started using it, were asking me, hey, what is that? And, you know, a lot of people were not educated. The problem we're running into with these bills is that a lot of the representatives, senators, you know, these people, they just don't know the facts about these things. We can look at, for instance, the Royal College of Physicians. They had a study, I think it was all the way back in like 2007 or 2008, that said vaping is at least 95% safer than combustible tobacco. There's a lot of different terms used for vaping. Vaping is, I like to tell people vaping is a verb, okay? It's an action that you're doing. A lot of people vape different things. What this bill affects me and my business and a lot of my other local businesses, it affects them in the fact that this is for tobacco harm reduction. And this is specifically what they were going after with these two pieces of legislation.
Fred, let me ask you this. When you talk about the difference between the open system and the closed system, and you know, there's a lot of reaction when we discuss this, and a lot of it focuses on what the lawmakers called the Chinese products.
Yes.
Can you help me understand that? Because I think there's a lot of that's loaded language, I would think. But at the same time, you know, is there a necessity for us to figure out if there are certain products on the market that aren't as advertised or are potentially harmful in some way?
Okay, when we get to that point of things, there are a lot of these disposable vapes. Everybody that's been into a convenience store or just about anywhere anymore, I think even the Dollar Generals sell them. Anywhere you go, you find these vapes that are flavored in different things. And yeah, I mean, some of these things do appeal to children, and that was part of the intent of this bill, is to get this out of the hands of children. Which my shops, I've always had a rule when it was 18 for vaping before Trump and the state here in Tennessee changed it to 21. Nobody even came in my store unless they were old enough. Now that it's 21, we're at that point. The problem is where these are available in widespread, different markets, you've got these products that, these stores buy the cheapest thing they can get. Obviously, the cheapest thing they get is going to be made in China. Most of those are going to be the disposables, the ones that are what we call a closed system. So when you get involved with a closed system product, there's no refilling of any juice. What's in it? The liquid that's in it is what I mean when I say juice. When you get into the product itself, if it's made in China, many of those products are shipped to the United States with the liquid pre-filled. In that case, yes, there are dangers not knowing, the restrictions that they have in China or Taiwan, wherever these things may be made, as to, the quality of the materials that are used. Vaping for tobacco harm reduction using a nicotine vape contains 4 different products. You got vegetable glycerin, propylene glycol, food-grade flavoring, and nicotine. All 4 of those products are approved for uses by the FDA in different scenarios. So we don't really know. We don't have control over what comes from China, what might be in those. What a lot of the manufacturers are doing nowadays because of this is, even in the disposables, but all open systems, the liquid that goes in them, they're made in the United States. The FDA is very clear on that.
That's good information. So if it's an open vaping system, that liquid that goes in there is made in the U.S.
100%, all of it. There are stuff that you can order offline, the TikTok shops, whatever. Yeah, you're going to be getting shipped something from China or another country, and you don't know what's in it. But if you go into a reputable vape shop anywhere in Tennessee, and I think there's 6,500 plus of us out there, most of those bottles that you see on the shelf, you look at them, it'll tell you the ingredients that are in them, and it'll tell you made in the United States.
And just to make sure that we address it, I don't believe, Fred, you or any other vape store owners that I know of are against. I mean, right now you understand what the rules are. Reputable vape store owners are going to ask for identification, and you don't have a problem if the state wants to, crack down and make sure that young underage kids aren't buying these types of things. That's not an issue for you, is it?
No, not an issue at all. As a matter of fact, we've been doing that before the state even required it. We were doing it even before the age got changed to 21. We were checking IDs. We treated it like a liquor store.
Right.
If you want to buy it, you got to prove that you're old enough to buy it.
Right.
And that's the way it should be. And I don't think any reputable vape shop out there is going to have a problem with that. Here's where the problem starts, where these kids are getting a hold of it, and why this legislation started to become, an issue. The resource officers are finding these things with the kids in school, and they're having to seize them from them. They're having to notify their parents. It's becoming a point of contention in the state, and it's every state. Here's what we run into. There are places out there you can buy these, especially the disposables, which is primarily what is the problem with the children, because they don't know how to use these open systems. They're a little more complex. You need a little training. You have to go to a vape shop who's going to card you, and you're not going to get it anyway. But you can slip into your local convenience store, and if they're real busy and they're ringing stuff up, you look like you might be 21. They don't ask. These kids are getting a hold of it. The Tennessee Smoke-Free Association, which I'm a member of, we proposed a bill this year that would put these vapes in 21 and up only establishments. For instance, like mine. That way, everybody who's buying one gets carded, because literally we card everyone who comes in the door. You can't make a purchase in my store unless you have your ID.
Is that legislation that is moving forward, do you believe?
Well, the legislation that they have now, they want to raise. Currently, I think it's if the federal law is if you look under 27, you have to show ID, and I think state recommends if they look under 30, you're supposed to request their ID. We just sidestep that. We go all the way to, look, to buy this, you have to show your ID. And I think that's the safest bet. And I think that's where this legislation should have went. The fact that they're throwing in taxes on this just doesn't make it look beautiful to us, We're already doing, the reputable shops, are already doing the legwork for the state of enforcing not selling to these people under 21.
Well, only about a minute or so left, Fred, but the bottom line this for me, what do you think if the taxation piece were to happen to the vaping industry in the state of Tennessee, would that shut down vape shops, or would it have, I would imagine it would at least have a negative impact on the business.
It would. The state, what they're proposing in the initial bill, without any amendments, was that they were proposing that only FDA-approved products or FDA products that are in the pipeline or in process of being approved could be sold, and they would have to register with the state to be sold here. In the way that this bill is written, the FDA does not share that information other than which ones are approved. So that would leave 34 products on the market, all of them being only tobacco flavor and like menthol tobacco. Mm-hmm. So 34 products, 2 different flavors, that doesn't keep a vape shop in business.
Fred, great way to give your perspective on the conversation. I appreciate you being willing to do so. We'll monitor that and maybe give you a call back for additional details when it comes back up again. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate your time.